Hello everyone, welcome to IAS Baba's 60 days rapid revision series for Prelims 2022. So this is day 10 and we again take up economics. Friends, yesterday we took up some basic concepts and here we are taking up some of the facts. So we will concentrate on those extreme facts so that you will identify them even in the prelims exam and you will not go with the gut feeling and mark it as a wrong, because some facts will, even though they are extreme, they will be factually correct. So firstly, we take up the poverty line and the comparison with the World Bank. So here the simple comparison is that World Bank defines the poverty as the expenditure of rupees 1.25 dollars per person per day. In 2015 it was updated for $1.90 per person per day. But in India we have different comparisons. So it is the monthly expenditure as per Tendulkar committee and Rangarajan's committee that define on the calorie based expenditures. But however, in India we have so many other committees which came up for the poverty estimations, and here we take a look at that. First came the Dandekar Rath committee. So they said that the daily subsistence of 2.250 calories per adult male, so that has to be taken up. So here for male it was different and for female it was different. So it was not on the rural urban basis. Then came Lakadwala committee in 1993. So they suggested that the calculation of the consumption expenditure on the basis of calories, that is, to consume these many calories, how much expenditure you incur. And apart from that, Lakadwala committee also stated that the expenditure has to be adjusted for inflation, that is, in urban the industrial workers inflation, and then in rural the agriculture labor inflations, that is CPI IW and CPI AL. So these are Lakadwala committee's recommendation. Then came Tendulkar committee. So Tendulkar committee adopted the urban poverty line based on Lakadwala and converted into MRP based consumptions. So here per month, so what is the expenditure that has to be taken up. So poverty line was defined on the basis of monthly per capita expenditure, that is 447 and 579. So all these we studied. And then came Rangarajan committee. So the committee determined poverty line based on the basket of goods and services and associated level of monthly per capita expenditure for those. So not only on the calorie consumption but also on the clothing and food and other things. So shelter, so such things are also calculated. And it considered a modified mixed recall period. So the modified mixed recall period is like we have to make sure that after periodically these have to be amended and they have to be updated. Then calorie requirement for rural and urban area was 2154 and 2089. So for rural areas it was more because those people, they do the manual labors. And here are some of the estimates of the Lakadwala committee, Tendulkar committee and Rangarajan committees. So we take up only the total ones. So Tendulkar committee said that 29.1% of poverty was there and Rangarajan committee said 29.5%. So there was a huge debate like why that difference between 29 and 21%. So again, the methodology was different between the two. Then come to next, India's performance in multi-poverty index. So friends, World Bank, so earlier it used to release the multi-poverty index. So now the organizations like the UNDP and Oxfam Poverty and Human Development Initiative, so they will release this multi-poverty index. So here we have various attributes like the health and then education and living standards. So in the health, we have child mortality and nutrition, and then education, year of schooling and school attendance, and then the living standards like cooking fuel, then sanitation, then drinking water, housing, electricity and others are being taken into consideration. So here just go through the weightage that is given here. So 1/3 for each of health, education and living standards, and 1/6 and 1/18 of each for all these attributes. So here remember the organizations which come up with this report, and according to the study, 55.1% of population in India, they live under the multidimensional poverty in 2005-2006. And in 2015-16, it came down to 27.9%. So from 55, we came down to 27. So considerably good achievement. Then according to the study, 37.7 crore people in India, they live under multidimensional poverty as of 2018. So this is the number. This is not percentage. So don't confuse that. Then as of 2016, percentage of people in India who were deprived of nutrition were 21%. And then people who are deprived of cooking fuel, they were 26%, and those deprived of sanitation and drinking water, they were 24.6%. And the deprivation of electricity and housing, so 8% and 23.6%. So here that 25 average, you will have to note it down. So almost all poverties, so we have in the 24%, but some are in 6% and 8%. So these are extremes. So concentrate on them. That is like the drinking water. So we have improved considerably, and also the housing. We have not housing, electricity. We have improved considerably. So these are some of the indices. Then how is poverty calculated in India? Poverty is measured in terms of head count poverty ratio. So head count poverty ratio means it is the percentage of population that is living under poverty. So 21% means out of 1.3 crores, so 21% they are living under the poverty line. And while determining the poverty line in India, a minimum level of food requirement, clothing, then footwear, then fuel and light, education, medical requirements, so all these. So when we discussed about the basket, so all these come into that basket. Then the calorie requirement is 2004 calories, 400 calories per person per day in rural areas and 2100 calories in urban areas. So make sure that this is more for rural India. So don't confuse and don't hit vice versa. Then overall poverty line means a person living in rural areas and earning less than rupees 328 per month. And in urban areas, it is 554 per month. So again, here for the monthly expenditure and income, it is more for the urban because the cost of living is more. And then come to next, an overview on the MDGs and the SDGs. So whenever we speak of the MDGs, so our performance in all those goals, so that will become important. So here we have various goals. So MDG first, so that speaks of the eradication of poverty and hunger. So in that we are going slow. And then we have the universal primary education. In that we are going in a moderate pace. And then we have the promote gender equality and women empowerment. So in that we are moving considerably faster. So we are on the track. Okay. And then come to next, the goal for reducing the child mortality. In that we are moderate, and then improve maternal health. So in that we are weaker. And then to combat the HIV, AIDS, malaria and other diseases. So here we have been faster in one target, that is in HIV, AIDS. In other diseases we are almost slower. And then environmental sustainability. So in that also we are slow to moderate. But however, in the global partnership, that is how we engage in the international forums. So there we are moving in a faster track. So all these estimates will make sure so that you will get some hints in having guessworks. But obvious, extreme words will be there, like enormously, steadily, consistently, all those things. So apart from that, if you get at least one or two hints, so that will be more than sufficient. And that is what my duty to fetch you all those. And then, according to United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network, in 2019, India has been ranked 115 out of 162 countries in the SDG index. So from Millennium Developmental Goals, so we came to the Sustainable Developmental Goals. So in that, so currently the rank of India is 115 out of 162. So but obvious UPSC will not ask the ranking of India. So here make sure that SDG ranking is given by United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. So this mark it as important. And then India's score 61.1. So score might become important. So because we will be in the same average. So many times if we don't improve, then India has been scored at least the least ranking in SDG 9. So in the industry, innovation and infrastructure, we have scored the least rank. And then the second least is gender equality, that is in the SDG 5. And in zero hunger target also, we are below in the ranking. So we are abysmally having low rankings in all these. And the trends in SDG 1, that is poverty eradication, SDG 8, that is employment and economic growth, and SDG 13, that is to combat drastic effects of climate change. So in all these, we are approaching faster in reaching those targets. So remember 1, 8 and 13 for better improvement, and remember 9, 5 and 2. So remember 952 for bad ranking, remember 1813 for good rankings. Then come to next, the labor codes. So labor codes have been come in the 2021 prelims. So verbatim statements on labor codes have been given in that EPF question. So in that context, it become important. So labor code on industrial relations. So what are the laws subsumed under this code? The Trade Unions Act, then the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act and Industrial Disputes Act. So these are subsumed in this. Some of the salient features. The definition of worker include person in supervisory capacity getting wages up to 18,000 rupees per month. So mark this 18,000 rupees. So a worker is defined this way in this code. And then concept of reskilling fund has been introduced. So if a worker is retrenched or if he is removed from the job, so the employer has the responsibility to reskill him, and for that one fund has to be set up. And then registered trade unions may be recognized by the center or state as per the necessity. So these registered trade unions, so that will be recognized as the state trade unions or the central trade unions. So for them some concessions will be given in negotiations and they can go ahead with legal strikes and protests. And then concept of negotiating trade unions. So here negotiating trade union means if a trade union is designated as a negotiating trade union, so that will be the sole trade union which will negotiate with any of the companies. Okay, so government again it will decide which trade union has to be a negotiating trade union. Then the definition of strike includes casual leave taken by more than 50% of the employees on a given day. If more than 50% people go on leave, so that means it is a strike. Then the trade unions have to give notice of 14 days before going on a strike. And then provisions with respect to standing orders apply to the industrial establishments which are having more than 300 employees. So here what is a standing order? Standing orders means every company should have a code of conduct. So all these comes under the standing order. So every company which employ more than 300 employees, they should have a formal work culture, formal code of conduct. So all those rules and regulations. Then establishment with less than 300 workmen can be laid off, retrenched, so as and when required. Then an industrial disputes can be voluntarily referred either by the employer or by the employee. So voluntary dispute redressal is possible by the new code. And then coming to the code on occupational safety, health and working conditions. So this was one more code. And here some of the features are establishments engaged in hazardous activities. So the code defines what all the hazardous activities are and which companies have to engage in those activities. So here it includes all establishments where any hazardous activity is carried out. So here mark it all as a factually correct one. It is not an extreme one. And then contract workers. So code will apply to establishment or contractors employing 50 or more workers. So 50 or more workers. So here they will be considered as the contract workers. And then daily workers work hour limit. So here the 8 hours is the limit for per day. So if someone is working more than 8 hours, so it is overtime. Then employment of women. Women will be entitled to be employed in all establishments with adequate safeguards. So mark all. So all is not an extreme here. It is factually correct. And then any person who moves on his own to another state and obtains employment there, so will also be considered as the interstate migrant worker. So it is not only from the employer side. Even if the employee moves on his own will, so that is also considered as the migrant. And then some of the benefits for the interstate migrant workers, that is the public distribution system, then benefits available under the building and construction cess fund. So whatever benefit comes under this fund will be given to the migrant, and insurance and provident fund benefits. And then the database for interstate migrant workers. So the central and state government shall collect the database for the interstate migrant workers. And then social security fund, so that will be set up for the welfare of unorganized workers. So here so much of schemes have been taken up for formalization of the unorganized workforce. So those are the welcome steps. And then code on social security. So social security funds for the unorganized workers, gig workers and platform workers has to be set up. So here what is a platform worker? So people who are working in Swiggy, Zomato, all those are called platform workers. Then the national social security for gig workers and platform workers. So that will be monitored by the National Social Security Board. So this security board is already being set up, and now that is given a new responsibility. Then the term of eligibility for gratuity. So here the bill reduces the gratuity period from 5 years to 3 years for working journalists. For all others, so 5 years. So that is fixed. So if anybody works for an organization for 5 years and if he leaves, so but obvious the organization should pay some amount as gratuity as a token of gratitude to that person. And then offenses and penalties. So the code dilutes some offenses and penalties So it reduces the period of imprisonment and it reduces the fines. So all other things. Then additional powers given during the pandemics. So central government may defer or reduce the employers or employees contributions to the provident fund, then employee state insurance scheme for all these during the pandemics. So all these are present in the social security. So social security means, so here we are giving up the insurance, then provident fund, gratuity and all these. Then come to next, the poverty gap in India. So here the World Bank developed the concept of poverty gap, which is widely used to assess the prevalence of poverty in various countries. Friends, here poverty gap means it is not the rural-urban divide or it is not the male-female divide, anything. So the poverty gap means to what extent our poverty line is with respect to the average income of our poor in India, or the poverty gap is the average shortfall from the poverty line expressed as the percentage of poverty line. So for example, say we have 4.9% of poverty gap. So 4.9% means we are 4.9 percentage points below the poverty line. Say for example, if you fulfill the growth of 4.9% of GDP, but obvious we will have all people on the poverty line. So the poverty gap means the intensity of poverty or the intensity of deprivation we are calculating here. Then the poverty gap quantifies the severity of poverty. It demonstrates the extent to which individuals fall below the poverty line on average. Then a larger poverty gap indicates a greater level of deprivation and a higher incidence of poverty for those living below poverty line. And in India we have 4.8% of poverty gap. So remember carefully, poverty gap as per World Bank means not the rural-urban gap. So it is the intensity of poverty or the severity of poverty compared to the poverty line. Okay, then come to next, Gini coefficient. So here the Gini coefficient, it responds to the inequality within a society. So here we have the formula of Gini coefficient, that is A by A plus B. So A is this area and B is this area. So say for example, you make A as 0. So the Gini coefficient comes out to be 0. So 0 means like if you don't have this area, so but obvious the curve will be a straight line like this. Okay. So when the curve is a straight line, but obvious everywhere the absolute income equality is maintained. But now you make B as 0. So if you make B as 0, so but obvious, so the Gini coefficient happens to be 1. So 1 means it is a square like this. So this point means absolute inequality. Say for example, the 1% of property is being shared by the 99% of the people and 99% of property is being shared by 1% of the people. So such a huge inequality. So here 0 means absolute equality and 1 means absolute inequality. So the Lorenz curve. So this is the Lorenz curve we have. So Lorenz curve says that whenever economic growth happens, so first there will be some inequality and then the society happens to be equal. So society grows towards egalitarian whenever economic grows. So first the rich section will grow and when we tax them, so the income gets distributed towards the poor also. Then Thomas Piketty's report on India's inequality. So here as per the World Inequality Report 2022, India is among the most unequal countries in the world with rising poverty and affluent elite. So affluency or the elitism is more in India. So key highlights of the report, that is the income divide, that is top 10% and top 1% in India. They hold 57% and 22% of the total national income respectively. And then while the bottom 50% share has gone down to 13%. So the income, so the bottom 15% people, so they have been sharing only 13% of the national income right now. Then the share of public wealth across countries has been on a decline. So the public wealth, so that has to be more, so that the basic amenities will be given for all the people. But here private wealth is increasing and public wealth is decreasing. Then wealth inequality. So bottom 50% of the nation owns meager 6% of the total wealth. So even in the property ownership, so we have huge inequality. Then gender inequality, the share of female labor income share, so in India is equal to only 18%. So female sections, they form 49% of population, but they own only 18% of the income. So these are some of the findings of the Thomas Piketty's World Inequality Report. So remember, World Inequality Report is given by the Thomas Piketty's firm. So under his recommendation and his design, it is being produced. Then the status of India's demographic dividend. India has 62.5% of its population in the age group of 15 to 59. So this is the working age. So and this is increasing. So it is in the increasing trend and it will peak at around 2036, thereby reaching to approximately 65%. And according to Economic Survey 2018-19, India's demographic dividend will be peaking around 2041. So here the 2036 is as per the World Bank and other organizations, and as per Economic Survey, so 2041. So but obvious the Economic Survey is Indian, so they will have a bit hopeful report. Then when the share of working age population is expected to hit 59%. So at 2041, we will be having 59% of workforce in the working age population. And then indicators of India's demographic dividend. So here it is like one is the falling fertility rate. So we have peaked the demographic dividend. So that is indicated by the falling fertility rates. Then the rising median age. So median age of population is also rising. That is in 2011 it was 24 years and now it is 29 years. And in 2036, it will be 36 years. Then the falling dependency ratio. So the dependency, that is the old age and the children. So their ratio is being falling down. That means the youth population is increasing. So what are the indicators of demographic dividend? We should have a falling fertility rate, then rising median age, and then we should have a falling dependency ratio. So remember these three criteria. Then skill development in India. So friends, skill development includes many schemes. So how to learn all those things? So we will have a structured study here. So skill development means Skill India mission. So Skill India mission means, so it is a target. Whenever Government of India speaks of a mission, it is a target. So by 2022, how many persons you are going to skill? So that is a target. So how to skill? So they will be skilled under Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. So in this Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, we will be having the National Skill Development Authority. So this National Skill Development Authority, so that will be tasked for the implementation of National Skill Quality Framework. So the quality of skill will be checked by this, and then so this NSDA will also strengthen the state skill development missions. So all the state skill development missions, so they will also be taken into consideration. So here we have a center state coordination, and then the National Skill Development Corporation. So that is tasked for the inspection of the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Kendras. So all those Kendras, that is the ground level work, will be taken up by the NSDC. So remember, this authority is in the upper level management, corporation is at the lower level. So Director General of Training, so they will look after the quality of training in the ITI institutes. And then under this scheme, training and assessment fees are completely paid by the government. So mark this completely. So no person has to pay the fees, government pays on them. And then here some of the schemes of skill development is being given. So that is the Deen Dayal Upadhyay, the Gramin Kaushal Yojana. And here we have the Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. So Antyodaya Yojana comes under the National Rural Livelihood Mission. So that means the cooperative societies and the self-help groups are being promoted under this scheme. And then we have the Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, the overall scheme for skill development. And here we have NSDC. And Make in India also comes under this. So we can also skill people for Make in India and also for the Digital India. So Digital India means the software engineers or any other software operators, computer operators can be trained under these. So here Ministry of Skill Development and Ministry of Labor. So they come, and Ministry of Rural Development also comes into picture. Okay, so we remember all this, and we have some other schemes here. We have the SMART scheme. SMART scheme means Skill Management and Accreditation of Training Centers. So this scheme only accredits the ITIs, then the Kaushal Vikas Kendras and others. And but obvious, we have the Kaushal Vikas Yojana here, and here one more, Media and Entertainment Skill Council. So here people are skilled for the media and entertainment. So in that respect and in that sector also, we are training the people. And then some of the government initiatives. So the latest one is the SPIN scheme. So recently Khadi and Village Industries Commission, KVIC, launched a unique scheme called the SPIN scheme, that is strengthening the potential of India scheme. So KVIC under which ministry? Ministry of MSME. So mark that. And then about the SPIN scheme. The SPIN scheme aims at infusing self-sustainability in the Indian pottery sector. So mark this pottery sector. Then the scheme enables the registered potters to get a direct loan from the banks under Pradhan Mantri Shishu Mudra Yojana. So we have the Mudra loans. Under this Mudra loans, we have Shishu, then Kishore and other loans. So here only Shishu loans are given. That means only the small amount of loans are being given. And this is a non-subsidy program. So here no subsidies are given. So only the loans are given and loans will be paid back. And then coming to others. So here we have Sankalp scheme. Sankalp scheme means skill acquisition and knowledge awareness for livelihood promotions. So what is the aim of this? That is to bring about convergence and infuse quality in the skill development programs and make those skill development programs relevant to the market needs. So here updation of the skills that are being imparted. So that is the main aim of this Sankalp. So remember the aims. So that is more than sufficient here. And then come to next, the Udan scheme. Udan scheme is also a skill development scheme, but it is concentrated only for the J&K youths. So to bring them and to make them accessible to the labor market. So that is the core aim of the Udan scheme. So don't confuse the Udan scheme with the civil aviation scheme, whatever we have right now. Then the STAR scheme. STAR scheme means Standard Training Assessment and Reward Scheme. So here the reward scheme, the name itself shows that if a person undergoes skilling and if he finishes the target, so but obvious his skill should be assessed. So some exams should be conducted and if he passes that, he should be rewarded. So this assessment and reward, so they are the part and parcel of the training. So that is why that is also being included here. And then come to next, the state specific SDG index in India. So Niti Aayog, so that had come up with the state specific SDGs. So means on the sustainable developmental goals targets, every states are being assessed and the ranking is given to them. Okay, so here we have some of the data. So the 2020-21, the state SDG index has been released and here it tracks the progress of all states and UTs on 115 indicators that are aligned towards the MOSPI's National Indicator Framework. So what are the targets that are being set? So they are being set under the National Indicator Framework under Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. So now coming to the performance. So Kerala ranks 1, then Himachal Pradesh and then Andhra Pradesh, Sikkim and Maharashtra. So top 5 and the bottom 5. So it starts from Bihar, Jharkhand, Assam and Arunachal Pradesh and Meghalaya, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. And the developing states, so fast improving states are Mizoram comes first, then Haryana and then Uttarakhand. So here we have to remember Kerala, we have to remember Bihar and Mizoram, Haryana, Uttarakhand. So all these three we will remember. And then the state wise and the goal wise report. So on the poverty, no poverty target of goal 1. So the Tamil Nadu and Delhi, they rank first, and then goal 2, zero hunger. Kerala and Chandigarh, they are in the top. And then good health and well-being, Gujarat and Delhi again. And then quality education, Kerala and Chandigarh. So, but obvious in education, we can't beat Kerala. Then gender equality, Chhattisgarh, Andaman Nicobar Islands. So, mostly they are tribal, Andaman Nicobar are tribal states. So, tribal union territories. So, but obvious there, gender equality will be there. So, there was a question in mains, like why the sex ratio is not skewed in the STs or the scheduled tribes, because they are not following our patriarchal mindset. And then the clean water and sanitation. So the Goa and Lakshadweep, so they come first. And then we have the affordable clean energy. So here we have so many states. And then because right now the renewable energy and then the solar mission is going on and all states are taking part actively in that. So this is the indication. And then we have the decent work and economic growth. So Himachal Pradesh and Chandigarh again. And then we have the industry, innovation and infrastructure. So whenever industry comes, Gujarat, that comes first, and then Delhi also. Then reducing inequality, Meghalaya and Chandigarh. And then sustainable cities. So here Punjab and Chandigarh. So we know that Chandigarh is also a very clean city. And then responsible consumption and production. So Tripura, Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh. So here the production is mostly from the tribal. So they are not so environmentally harmful. And then the climate action, again Odisha, Andaman, Nicobar. So here these people, they have been successful in maintaining those pristine environments. So that is why they come first. And then the life below water, Odisha. So, but obvious, Odisha lies in the coastal areas and they have been successful in maintaining a pure water within them. Then life on land. So, Arunachal Pradesh and Chandigarh, and peace, justice and strong institutions, Uttarakhand and Puducherry. So, Puducherry, one new entrant here. So, overall, whenever we see, so whichever state has taken initial steps in that direction, so they have been in the top. So, we have seen how the gender inequality is better in the tribal states, and then the foreign investment in Gujarat, and then clean environment in Chandigarh. So all these. So but obvious, all the statistics are as per our knowledge. So they are as per the gut feeling. Okay. So these are some of the statistics and informations. So I had to give you. And then coming to the last part, friends, again, whenever you are flooded with so many facts, so here it is not the time for you to get frustrated. It is the time for you to fight back and revise it again and again. Revise as much as possible. Revise as many times as possible, so that at one time you will be at the top of the world. So whenever you achieve something, everything will be history. So make sure that you create a history before going out of this earth. So do it. All the very best. Good luck, friends.